Hey everybody, Xdesign 101 here, and I got another tutorial for you guys. This tutorial is going to be on mounts. So a lot of people who are using Plygame, you already know that a mounting system is, well, nearly impossible. Well, a quick workaround so that you can mount with any kind of program or building software is having a little bit of work inside of Blender and taking your horse or your dog and kind of merging him with a player, an actor. You know what I mean? So a character here. So here's our low poly cowboy. It is a free asset, so you can go ahead and search that one. And if we go and look for a horse, you could search for horse, but there's another free horse. It's a low poly, or maybe not as low, but where is that stupid horse? So there's that. Animated horse. It is again free. This one does have animations, but I'm going to be re-rigging this model because I don't like the way it was rigged. I did look at it and everything before coming up with this video. So basically, whatever, if you guys have a model that was designed in Blender, then most of the times you will have your rig and everything come back. But if it was designed in something else, like normally an FBX file is designed in whatever program FBX comes from, I don't really remember off the top of my head, but hey, that doesn't matter so much. So import those two assets, and now we're just going to minimize Unity because we're not going to be using Unity for probably most of the first part of this tutorial. The first thing we're going to want to do is make sure that you install Blender, so just go ahead and go to blender.com or .net. You can just Google Blender and you'll find Blender. I'm using Blender 2.69 because it has no issues for animating, such as in the newer version not everybody have this issue where we can't delete actions from our action list, so that it just ends up making a huge stack of actions that are multiplied of the same, and I didn't like that, so I just tried different versions until I found a version that allowed me to actually delete them, which would be this version. So go ahead, get the latest version, doesn't really matter. Just be wary of multiple animations the same. Again, I don't know if it's going to work for you properly than it did for me, but there'll be a slight change when it comes to that perspective. So let's just get started. We can get rid of this cube. Now we're just going to want to import FBX. So we've imported these models into our actual project already. So we're just going to go ahead and find our project window, assets, cowboy model, and we're going to take the latest model, which is 1.1. Double click on that. Should open up this large cowboy model, which we are going to start scaling downwards here. So we're just going to continuously adjust it until we find a size that suits. And this is starting to look pretty good here. Just a bit more. There we go. Now we just want to reposition our model. We want to bring the feet towards the flat mesh looking stuff at the bottom here that has the red line and green line. Bring it back as well because we want the feet to be centered like this. Make sure that it touches the floor pretty much. Again, let's actually delete a few things here. Get rid of this CG. We don't need this camera or this lamp. If we look in the drop down, we have nothing in here really except for our what do you call it, mesh your texture, I guess, your texture mesh. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Boom. Sorry for that little brain fart. Anyway, so that's only got a texture mesh. You don't need to mess with that when you put it back in Unity. The texture mesh is complete for you, meaning you should just be able to throw on those textures and boom. So the next step now would be to open up the horse in Blender, but I found that there was an issue with that. So to prevent that issue, because I wasn't actually able to import it into Blender until I imported it into Metasequa 4 first. So go ahead, find yourself a version of Metasequa or maybe another software that'll allow you to open that FBX. I'm not sure why it won't directly open in Blender. I'll put a link in the description to this horse that I've already put through Metasequa and re-exported, and it works in Blender now for you. But if you have Metasequa, you just gotta go ahead, File, Open, and we just go to our horse. So if we go to our local disk H, our thing here, inside our assets, we're just going to look for horse model and then double. So a slight transparency here, but we don't have to worry about that either. We can literally just go ahead and export it or save as a new FBX file, give the name horse again, but I backed up into here and that's the horse model. So if you're going to use this particular horse model, I will leave the fixed version of the horse in the description, so just go ahead and download that. So I'm quickly just going to import the horse. Same steps, but I'm importing the new model that I just created from Metasequa 4. Now we have our horse imported. As you can see, it has some sort of rigging, but we will not be using the horse's rig, mainly because it's not actually bones. So well, maybe they are in a wireframed version of bones, but I'm not too big of a fan of the way this is done. That and we kinda actually have to make a new armature that combines both the horse and the player together as one, where right now it is two separate objects and we don't want that. So we're gonna be deleting all these little files that came with the horse that happen to be involved with anything but the main mesh of the horse. So that's what you're seeing me do right now, is just clearing up that, getting rid of all the bones or wireframe of bones from the horse, and then we're going to fuse them together. You'll notice that I can easily enable and disable the horse's visuals, which is what we'll be doing in Unity manually, as well as changing the animation when it comes down to it. I'm just gonna finish this up quickly, and in a few minutes or seconds we'll be continuing on with the vocals. Now, just kind of come back over to the horse, and we're going to flip them. Now let's just make sure the feet are flat. Now we could again scale this. Oops. Just a little bit more because it is a horse. There we go, that's fine. Horses are generally pretty big creatures, so Now we're just going to want to pull the horse back till it is centered with the player. Let's say that's about the sitting position for the character in perspective. So it's looking pretty good. If we toggle the eye of our horse, it'll enable and disable. We'll do that in Unity, apply game. For now, let us just child our horse to our cowboy, and that'll leave us at a good spot right there. Alright, so to place a bone, all we're going to do is just click Shift A, Armature, Single Bone. Which showed up all the way the hell over there, which isn't supposed to happen, but okay. So we'll just... Oh, that's why. Shift C to center that, and it would have made the armature in the center. Hold on a second. Now we'll do that. Shift A, armature, single bone. So we want to raise the bone about to the crotch area, and then we want to go ahead and activate the X-ray so we can see the bone through our mesh here. So we're just gonna, oops, we're gonna go to edit, so we are in edit mode. So we highlight that fully here. Okay then. So we're just gonna move the bone to the center of the body. Grab the top with a right click, and we're just gonna wanna pull it up to about the chest area. Let's just pull a little lower to the groin here. Now we're gonna press E to extrude and drag our mouse up to pull in a new bone attached to the first bone. We'll just pull this forward so it's in the body. We're going to want to drag it more up. We're also going to pull the center of the two bones up more. And this is a basic spine. At this point, press 3 on the keyboard to face the camera on the side of the model. This is where you start to decide how amazing your animations are going to be. Most of the times you don't have a lot of bones, but we're going to E to extrude a neck bone here, and then E to extrude our head bone. So this is how I would make a more modular skeleton for my model. But we will go simpler for this tutorial if I really think about it. So I could just go back, extrude just one time for basic animation, bring it up pretty high on the head. That looks good. We'll just need to straighten this out. Bam. Now we're going to start working on our arm bones. So basically we're just going to add a new bone. Alright, so to add in that new bone, we're just going to click here to move our cursor, position it, and then we can just click Shift A to create ourselves our new bone. Let's just drag this to the elbow. We extrude this one more time to the wrist, and then If you see fit, you can extrude to the hands, which most of the times I do this. Press E to extrude from the last selected bone. Now let us just position the bones. This. It's always good to look around and make sure that the bones are properly positioned in the mesh. There we go. If you want fingers, you would create each finger as a separate bone where the fingers are. This using Control A. If you don't plan on wanting to animate the hands or fingers, then it's not a problem, but you can just do that so that you can reposition the fingers. Animate them in case you just want the hands to be pre-closed instead of open like this. Whatever your perspective is. Now let's move down over to the left leg. Left click at the top of the leg to place our cursor and then create a bone, and then we're going to extrude it down to the knee. We're going to extrude another one to our ankle. Now extrude to our foot. Well, that looks fine. Fix this knee. This leg. Move it this way just a bit more. There we go. And now we have our left side of our skeleton armature complete. So let's go ahead and rename the bones. Right here I'm accidentally going to name the armature, so I'll fix that in a second, and then we'll properly name the bones. Okay. Now then, we want the name of the bones, so we want to click the bone, not the armature. My bad. Armature should have been called armature. .100 or 001, I think it was, yeah. Armature, whatever, yeah, that works. Go back to the bones, rename this the head bone. We want the chest. That was not how you spell chest, that's like cheest. Now we want this to be stomach. Now we want upper arm dot capital L, lower arm dot capital L. The reason why we do this capital L nonsense is because when we duplicate and flip, it'll we'll be able to change the name in one quick swoop instead of having to manually rename it. So, and this will be hand.l. Do the same for the left leg. Upper leg.l, lower leg.l, foot.l, for example. Alright, so with this, we can now duplicate this stuff. We can just press C to select all of our armature on our left side here. And just go ahead and right click after you're selected. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to click Shift C to center your little prong here. Then we're going to want to press period to center our movement. Then we want to Shift D to duplicate, and then we want to click S, X, -1, and then enter. And that's going to flip everything. So now we can just go to armature, the lip names, and the names have been auto flipped. Main character has been completed.